Now, I'm 13 weeks pregnant. It's February 13th, 2010, Snowmageddon in Washington, D.C. You remember Snowmageddon? Okay, so they shut down the Pentagon. The whole city shut down. They're like, uh-oh, we need people to go into the Pentagon, one person per office, because if World War III breaks out today, we need somebody there. My husband and I volunteered to do that. 1, because we lived inside the Beltway. 2, we didn't have kids. 3, we didn't have to drive far. There was just a lot of reasons. So I went in. World War III did not happen that day. I did watch Family Feud. And at the end of my shift, I went home. Tons of snow. I get to the stairs outside the building. I'm 13 weeks pregnant, combat boots. I take the first step, and I fall head over heels, 15 steps to the bottom. And when I get to the bottom, I land, I get a moment of reprieve, and I realize I'm looking at the bottom of my boot right here. I had completely broken my leg across here and had a full dislocation of my ankle. I had no cell phone coverage, had to wait for someone to find me, 45 minutes for the ambulance to get there in the snow chains all the way to a civilian hospital. They said, you need emergency surgery to fix this leg if we're gonna do it right. But my baby, the most important thing I'd ever done in my whole life, the thing that defines me to this day, is being a mom. I was so scared. We had waited so long. I knew I was considered high risk already because of my age, and now I've got to have this surgery with my baby. What's going to happen? My husband finally shows up. They said, we got to give you an ultrasound to see how your baby's doing before this major surgery. I'm apologizing to my husband, crying. We get down to the ultrasound tech, and I'll never forget this moment. She's like, looks like she's 12, right? And she's chomping her gum. Oh, it was so annoying, and I was in so much pain. My husband gets there. I'm apologizing for messing our lives up. She's got the ultrasound thing going, and she finally puts her hand on my leg, and she says, sweetheart, it's okay. 2 strong heartbeats. Your twins are fine. My leg. My leg did not hurt at that time. I looked up at her, and I said, we're not having twins. She turns the screen towards me and my husband, who are very adept at reading radar. And so the joke in our house is that I fell down the stairs and the baby broke in half. So anyways, because of the surgery, et cetera, I was put on strict home bed rest for the next 8 weeks, because anytime I would stand and try to use crutches, I would start getting Braxton Hicks, and they didn't want that. So my mom flew in. I laid around, literally bedpan and sponge bath. That's okay. Well, at 21 weeks, unfortunately, I started contracting heavily. I was taken up to Walter Reed National Naval Medical Center, where they took a look at me and promptly brought in the chaplain, the social worker, the counselor, and the psychiatrist. You can imagine what they told me. You're 21 weeks, this isn't gonna work out. I am like, excuse me, this isn't gonna happen. This isn't gonna happen. This is the single most important thing I've ever done in my life. Look at all the things that I've been through. You can't tell me this. They said, you're in labor. I said, well, how many weeks do I need to make it to? They said, you're at 21, you need to make it to 28 for the kids to have a chance. And I'm like, well, then I'm gonna do that. They're like, no, you're not. They literally brought in people to try to medicate me because they thought I was like not, processing everything. So I could do an entire speech on what happened next. But to suffice it to say, I would stay in preterm labor for 54 days. I would be in a position called Trendelenburg, which is head down and feet up, not to TMI you guys, but just kind of holding the babies in by gravity. And I would contract from minor, imperceptible ones all the way to major contractions every 3 to 12 minutes for 54 days. It is unheard of. I'm still friends with all the doctors and nurses. We get together every year. But it was one of the most extraordinary things that ever happened to me. It's the most extraordinary thing I've ever done. And I think it was one of the greatest gifts that ever happened to me, because I realized I was so much stronger than I had ever given myself credit for. And I honestly believe, and this is hard to say, that I love my children in a way I may not have had I not gone through this. And I learned something about resilience. Here's the thing, resilience is a great term. Resilience is important. But it means bouncing back to your previous self. When you go through something like this, and I know there's stories like this in the audience and stories like this on your teams, it is a crucible experience. You are completely different and forever changed when you come out on the other side. There's no bouncing back. This is about resurgence. This is about reinvention. 6 months after my kids were born, I was back in the cockpit of an F-15E, and a few months after that, I took command of my first fighter squadron. And another mantra that kept popping into my head, and I've left you with a few today, but here's another one. There was nothing I could do except my best in the moment. I could not control this, and it was yield to overcome. I kept telling myself, the more energy and stress I put into being upset about my circumstance, the more I hurt my circumstance and that of my children. Yield to overcome. It's not quitting, it's not surrendering, it's accepting and moving forward into that.